I'm delighted to welcome Harry Bushnell, who was Emma Raducanu's coach when she was young. Of course, we all know the success Emma's had this year. And I work in the space of 10 and unders, and I do the ones that we think can have a chance to do well. So I've got a lot of questions for you, Harry. Let's start with where it all began. How did you come into contact with Emma?
So I was back then and still am the head of performance at the Park Langley Club, which is a club in Beckenham in Kent. We've always had quite a good track record, I would say, of working with good, talented players at 10 and under. Back then, we were a performance centre, and obviously the next step would be the high performance centres. And now we're a local player development centre. And obviously the next step now from us is the regional player development centre. So we have stayed kind of on the network, as it's called now. We've always been the same centre in that network, which is specialising in 10 and unders. So obviously what we were doing then compared to now has changed a little bit. My role has changed a little bit, but generally speaking, it's been the same. You know, we come under the same remit, if you like.
So did you just turn up at your centre for lessons?
So she was being coached at Sundridge Park, which is a club not far from us. It's just a club, you know, it's not an LTA centre or anything like that. They've got quite a nice setup there. It's quite a nice, friendly club. And I believe she was there with Richard Woodcello, who did some work with her in schools, because he's heavily into his school's coaching program. And I mean, I don't know exactly how she ended up at Park Langley. I would imagine she did some stuff there, and it was very early on that she either came to Park Langley off of her own back, or someone would have said, look, you know, you're looking like you could be pretty good. Why don't you try a performance centre? So she came to Park Langley, I believe, around the age of 5-6 years of age, and she was coached by my colleague at the time, Matt Healy, who he was in charge at the time of like the mini tots sessions, the mini reds that were very young. You know, it was his responsibility to almost get them going, get them onto that pathway of performance where they played a few times a week, did some one-to-one stuff, did some tournaments. You know, that was his remit. And we had a really good thing going at the club at the time where, you know, he would do that. And when the kids got to a certain age and standard, he was very good at moving them on, because he wanted to then focus on the next lot of kids coming through. But very quickly, you know, he said to me, look, this girl, Emma, is pretty good. I think you should have a look at her now. So she was around 6 years of age, I believe, when that happened. I did a bit with Matt and her on call. And I mean, obviously she was pretty good. And we then started to work together with her. Matt still saw her. I saw her, you know, for one lesson a week or whatever. And it grew from there. You know, she then went through our coaching program like they all would. She was in the best mini tennis red classes. We did a thing back then called the A Squad, where it was like the best kids came together on a Saturday morning, and we had this A Squad trophy, which it was just a little end of term tournament, but there was a trophy that they would win. Sandy Proctor actually came up with that concept when she worked there many moons ago. So yeah, Emma won that. She's one of only very few girls that have won that thing. I mean, we don't do that anymore. We've stopped it, but certainly, you know, she was in all of those sessions that we would have considered the better sessions. She then went to orange, she then went to green, she then went to full ball. And as she went through, the lessons ramped up a little bit.
Take a pause there and looking in a bit more depth about where it all started. First of all, I'd like to give a shout out to those other coaches you've mentioned, because it takes so many coaches in the coaching chain to bring a player through. Yeah. I think it's good that you've mentioned those, and let's say a well done to them as well.
And absolutely, and I will always mention them, because I mean, you know, I don't know much about what Emma did at Sundridge Park and with Richard. I know they always had a good relationship. She always did little bits and bobs with him at Sundridge Park. He doesn't work there anymore, but she still returns to the club. But certainly Matt Healy, he was a huge part of what we did with her.
Right.
Matt now coaches at Surbiton, and he does what I do at Surbiton. And it's just great. I'm delighted for him to take some recognition as well, because I think when you're working in the 10 and under sector, a lot of people don't think it's as tough as when it's 12 plus, and it's not as serious and it's not as hard, and it really is. And I think there's a lot of coaches out there that they get, I don't know, they get a little bit demotivated maybe and offended by that. And so it's only right they all take the recognition for the part they played in her journey, for sure.
Absolutely right. So let's take her when she's arrived at 5. What would a typical program be at 5 for a good little one?
It would probably be to play a couple of times a week in squads. Certainly at that stage, the standard of the sessions wasn't that important. It was more just getting her playing a couple of times a week. It probably would have been more a case of, when she was around to do it. We would have tried to have got her with the same coach on both of those squads. But again, at 5, 6 years of age, that's not hugely important. It's more about just getting her to just play a little bit more, and to maybe encourage her to, go down the tennis road rather than dancing or netball or football or hockey or whatever, it might be. Because I don't know about you, Amanda, but my experience of these younger kids, when they're good at most things, and whatever they try their hand at, the cricket coach, the athletics coach, they want them to do a bit more, and they want them to prioritize that particular sport. So that's what we would have done. We would have just made sure she was in 2 good sessions with quality coaching. If it could have been with the same coach, that would have been a bonus. But certainly at that point, it wouldn't have been performance and serious and, you're in here with the best kids. No way.
Would there have been any competition involved?
At 5, 6 years of age, no.
Right.
Not back then. There wouldn't have been no. No, there wouldn't have been. There wouldn't have been. I mean, I'm trying to think when she started competing. I would imagine I'm going to take a hunch here. I think she started competing probably a little bit earlier than some of the other kids that we've seen. But I think it's important to understand that she was always very good in competitions. She never would be one that would go and cry and throw tantrums and find it really difficult. When you're looking at some of these kids, you think, I'm not sure this is for you, or I'm not sure you're ready for this at the moment. She was never like that. And certainly as she got a little bit older, she played a lot of competitions, but it was never an issue, because she thrived on it. She didn't buckle under the pressure, which is quite interesting when you see her now.
So what age are we talking about there, where she'd do a lot more competition?
I reckon she started competing when she was kind of 6 going on 7, I reckon. And it was 8 and under mini red events. And certainly when she won the mini red county closed, I remember that summer, they commented on the amount of matches she'd played and tournaments she'd played. And it was a lot. And obviously some people, their eyebrows were raised, and it was like, that sounds like a lot. And to be honest, it could have been too many. It could have been a lot, but for her, I didn't think it was. And I think that's probably part of this conversation. Everyone wants to know, what did she do? What
Exactly.
did you do? And you just, for me, and I'm probably more like it now than I was back then, because now I have the experience of working with someone like Emma. You've got to just take each person as they come. You can't say, at 6 years of age, if you're female, this is what you should be doing. If you're 8 and you're a male, this is what you should be doing. Everybody is different. She did probably a little bit more competition once she got going than the other players that we had on the program, but she was more competent, and she liked competing.